I get it. You want to work at Google. You want to have all that free food. You want to be surrounded by engineers that are fucking legendary. You want to be that honey, that status-seeking symbol for all of your friends. You want your parents to be proud of you. You want to be that genius developer that everybody points at whenever you walk. There he goes, the greatest developer that ever lived. Let's not forget the bombastic salary that comes along with working at a big company like Google. I want you to imagine for a minute getting one email that changes your life for an entire year. That's what happened to me. You see, I was sitting one day in my bedroom. I opened the laptop up and I saw a email. And that email was from Google. I lost it. I ran around the entire room screaming with joy, man. I remember it. My brother was equally hyped up. You know, we've been practicing getting into big tech for so long. This was our chance. I want you to imagine for a minute. You spend weeks crafting the best resume, following all these tutorials online, staying up till late, scrolling Reddit, looking at these people getting tech jobs left and right. 100K here, 200K there, 300K here. Dollars I'm talking about. You know, I used to think to myself, damn, their parents must be so proud of them. They're working as respected engineers, man. And that shit, that stuck with me. I was so happy when I got that email from Google. I was like, shit, we're gonna have to fucking work hard. And I worked hard. Well, clearly not enough. You know exactly what this video is about. And this is what I've learned in the last few years. Learning these algorithms, these data structures, these vague concepts nobody really talks about. Unless you're in computer science university. I spent so much time trying to figure out how to master this. I literally gave up everything I knew. I gave up my life. Well, clearly not enough. I failed. I'm here. I'm proudly here to tell you that I failed that task of getting that big job at Google. That shit that went up to $180,000 per year on average. All I wanted to do was make my parents happy, man. And let's not forget, getting such a banger, baller ass job was going to attract all of the girls. And not only the girls, mind you, but the parents as well. The parents of the girls. You see, I was so obsessed. I wrote 180,000 on my wall and I stared at that shit every single day. I even put up a fucking picture of the slide that they make you go down at the office I was applying for. I literally spent the half of that year, like the first half of the year, obsessing about this shit, man. And that's 6 months I'm not gonna get back. And look, you might think I'm coping, but the truth is, there were better things I could have put my time into. But I did. I did it. And these are the lessons that I want to pass on to you so that you don't make the same mistakes I did. Whether you want to be an amazing engineer or you want to be working at a big company like Google, you have to have a certain amount of characteristics in yourself, man. You can't be lazy and expect the world to give you this shit in your hands. You see, I say it so many times, but you as a developer, bro, and me as a developer as well, we have the responsibility to make beautiful products and to be the best engineers we can possibly be. When the interview came, right, it slowly crept in my calendar. I was literally trying to avoid it, bro. But eventually you had to do the interview, right? So much practicing, solving so many problems, right? Eventually you had to do the interview. And lucky for me, my recruiter was chill enough to extend the interview as much as I needed in order for me to take the time in order to prepare for it. I felt the urge to conquer those interview questions. And I felt like I did. You know why? Well, there's this website called pram.com, okay? This is a website where you can hop on a call with someone and for 2 hours, you take turns solving these technical problems and you grade each other based off of like a rubric that you can use that basically grades you, you know, you grade each other basically, okay? I spent 50 hours myself solving problems and 50 hours grading other people. Man, let me tell you one thing. I genuinely thought that I was really good at this shit. But then came the day of the interview and I failed that shit. Why? Well, to be honest, bro, I was lazy as fuck. I allowed myself to fall below my standards. I allowed myself to be weak. I let myself be entertained by cheap stuff. Partying, drinking, eating junk food, watching Netflix. Remember all the shit I told you about being excited and wanting to conquer all these problems? It wasn't enough. This is what we call wishful thinking, my friend. We cannot be doing this. Do I regret not passing? No. I'm the type of person to believe that life gives you gifts wherever you go. Everything is destiny. As long as you show up to the workplace, as long as you get up with a attitude of I'm going to get this shit, you'll be fine. This is probably not what you want to hear, but it is what you need to hear, in my opinion. I was determined and I was obsessed, but it was artificial. It did not come from the heart. I'm very capable of doing these things, and I'm sure you are too. You're very capable. But is it really what you want to do? Sure, you're probably watching this video because you have a Google interview coming up. God knows, I was watching as many interviews as I possibly could. As many reviews of interviews. You know, those YouTubers, you know, Nick White, Clement, obviously. I was binging their content. There was not one interview or interview question that I didn't want to miss out on. I remember I used to walk literally in the fucking cold, February cold in the Netherlands, alright? Walking down the street, shivering my ass off, putting my AirPods in, and listening to a stupid goddamn question about airplane connections. Thinking through, finding the most optimal solution. That was me in February, bro. I was obsessed, but I failed. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We, as engineers that want to be ambitious and visionary, we have to learn from the mistakes of our fellow engineers, our fellow colleagues. Okay? And these are the lessons that I learned from failing the Google interview. Alright? Let's get to it. So, given an interview, a Google interview, there are a few things that they grade you on. Let's start with the first one, coding. That's the first thing they grade you on. Coding is basically how clean your code is. Do you repeat yourself with your code? Do you create readable variable names and all that stupid shit? Being a full stack developer, I was able to clear this part easy peasy, right? Obviously, you don't repeat yourself, you create functions if you want to reuse codes, etc., right? That's all basic stuff you and I, we don't need to care about. As long as you're a developer that is making projects and that is getting your code reviewed by other experienced developers, you'll be fine and you'll check that part off. I was totally fine with this, okay? The next part, communication. Now, this is where the shit went wrong. I consider myself someone who has decent communication skills. All right, and this is very important. I've outlined this in my video so many times. But you need to be very eloquent, very verbal in your communication. Because that's like the biggest red flag that an interviewer can see. If your communication is shit, they don't want to work with you. They oftentimes say, at Google they hire based off of if they can have a beer with you after work. You have to be a genius, but you also need to be able to communicate your thoughts perfectly. After the interview, my recruiter gave me the feedback. She said, Neil, sometimes you didn't communicate your ideas properly. You oftentimes spoke before you thought about the problem at hand. And that shit hurt because I prided myself on having good communication skills. Let's not forget all of those interviews I did, right? Those 50 interviews. In that moment, I felt like all for nothing. But it is what it is. Another thing that my recruiter told me was that they did not see anything about my leadership capabilities. Now, my leadership capabilities, from my best knowledge, means taking charge of the situation. And both of us know that how a coding interview goes, right? You have an interviewer and you have an interviewee, okay? If your interviewee takes control of the situation and oftentimes asks questions that broaden the context of the problem, then that is regarded as leadership capabilities, right? Also in your behavioral interview, if you have experience in leadership abilities, that also counts. But okay, I digress. I oftentimes spoke before I thought, which was very bad. I was extremely nervous during that entire process. You know why? Because I obsessed about each and every outcome possible of this, this Google thing. I was very obsessed. And that showed in my interview, in my interviews, right? I was very nervous. It's a shame because the interviewer, they don't know you. They don't know how good you are. They don't know how much time you've put into this shit. And if you're nervous, they'll see that and they'll say, okay, that is 100% you. And I don't want you to do that. Be outcome independent, okay? That's the biggest lesson I've learned. Be outcome independent. Whether you're going for Google or Amazon or Apple, wherever you're interviewing, you need to have that solid mindset that whatever happens in my life, I'll be fine. Okay, if I had this mindset back then, I think it would be way more chill. Okay, that's communication. Let's get on to the next thing. Now that is problem solving. This also ties into the whole algorithms thing. So I'll combine this in one section. I'm a computer science student. I've gotten good grades for algorithms and stuff, like practical algorithm assignments, and it was very hard. Genuinely, the interview was extremely difficult. They started like, okay, we all know we need to learn shit about hash maps, about priority queues, about bit manipulation, about like stacks and queues and shit, right? We all know that shit, right? But what they don't tell you is that when the time comes and they want to interview you, they will literally mix and match each and everything. I remember I had this problem where I had to do like suffix tries and like apply a function on top of the suffix try and make sure that shit happened linearly. Like, look, I can get too in depth about the questions that I was asked, but basically they combine multiple topics into one question, right? I even remember this one time, like, okay, everybody knows after a while you get used to doing like sliding window techniques and shit like that, right? But what happens when you have a sliding window and intervals and shit? Like, bruh, I was dead. I was like, what the fuck? What's happening during the interview? I was trying to like make the interviewer laugh and shit, but yeah, that didn't work out. So anyways, they're gonna mix and match all these topics together. So you really need to make sure that your fundamentals are on point and you practice a lot. Practice with time, okay? I used to take my lovely day practicing all the problems, taking as much time as I wanted to. But what I didn't do was I did not put a timer on. I used to code on my laptop, take a fucking pen and paper, time yourself, and get those questions out. And yeah, I'm sure if you do this, if I did this, I would have passed, or at least been way more comfortable with the time constraints. Another thing, whenever you get an easy question, look out, because those easy questions are not like just them alone. They're usually warm-up questions. So I used to think, okay, if I got an easy question, boom, I solved the interview in my head. I'm like so confident and shit, right? So I took my time, I solved all that shit, but then after solving that easy question, oh shit, they fucking gave me another one. They gave me another follow-up harder question. And then I was fucked because I thought I had solved the question, but then I'm getting Vietnam flashbacks, man. Give me a minute. Yeah. So make sure if it's an easy question, be real with the interviewer. Be like, okay, cool. Yeah, we can solve it this way. Like, okay, this is the approach I have. Would you like me to code it out, etc., etc. Right? So solve it as quickly as you can, or perhaps if you just verbally give them the solution, they'll probably give you the real question afterwards. That was the coding part, the problem solving algorithms part, and the communications part. Okay. So with this information, I hope I've been clear enough with what my biggest lessons were. Genuinely, if you really want to get into these big tech companies, you have to practice a lot. They're not going to hire stupid people. They have to hire geniuses and smart people that are hardworking and really good at communicating in order to excel at the job, because it's a very difficult job. Listen, I have one more thing that I want to tell you, but it's kind of opposing everything that we've talked about during this video. And that is the fact that maybe there is a chance that you, the developer, don't really need to work at big tech. So I got an internship at Amazon instead of the full-time job at Google, but I look at that as a blessing, right? I genuinely look at that as a blessing because due to its temporary nature, I was able to leave and actually focus on the things that I'm passionate about. I was actually able to focus and put my time into stuff like artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, and building my own projects, because at the end of the day, personally, that's what I really love to do. Making products that people love to use, okay? So my biggest lesson that I have for you is understand what your goals and aspirations are in life. Ask yourself, will working at Google bring me closer to this or farther away from this? One very important observation that I have today, as of May 2023, is, do I want to be part of the AI revolution or not? I'm sure you're keeping up with all of the new tech, right? All of the new updates of ChatGPT, of Google Bard, and all of that stuff. But I want you to ask yourself, do you want to be someone who is working at a company, not necessarily working on those technologies? Or do you want to be someone who's actively building stuff with the latest technology, right? Stable Diffusion, Midjourney. Let's not forget ChatGPT, right? Like the latest models are powerful as hell, and I want you to use them as much as you can. But all right, I digress. Do you want to be working at a big company, or do you want to be working on your own products, right? Like working on your own projects and solving real life problems is something that is very satisfactory in my opinion. And I want you to ask yourself this question. Do you see yourself more as an employee, or do you see yourself as someone who wants to build beautiful product? I want you to learn from my mistakes and become a genius developer. Unlike, unfortunately, me last year. But I want you to genuinely succeed in your life, because bro, we have a duty as software engineers to fix the world. Everybody you know uses apps left and right. And you're watching this video means that you have a tendency to improve on yourself and become a better person. Okay? And lucky for you, I have access to a group of people that have similar mindsets and similar, views on life, that want to create products instead of working boring ass jobs at big, small, and medium companies. I want you to click the link in the description and join them if you want. All right? And listen, another thing. If you'd like to hear other messages that I have in the future, please don't hesitate to subscribe. No worries, no pressure, okay? But generally, if you're gonna do one thing, join the group if you want to. Talk to them, have fun, create beautiful products, okay? Life is a gift given by the gods to make a proper use of it. I'll check you in the next video. Peace out. Love you. Take care. Bye.